what bigger mission can you have than something that is the largest asset class in the world, that is a third of the disposable income or even more, and where people spend a third or up to the full day within the product, right? To me, the biggest, most important thing is to have a very big mission, and that's why I was saying, yes, of course, Dropbox was amazing, and the product is amazing, and the people were amazing, but the mission of what we were doing, and the sense of let's say fulfillment that, let's say, a software to share and store documents in your computer, it doesn't give you that sense of fulfillment, right?
What would you say you have lost? What's the price?
But the price is just your time, right? Spending time with your loved ones, your body, and the fact that you're traveling from one place to another. And I mean, the effect on your body is quite strong. So it is a kind of a quite competitive and intense lifestyle. And if you want to have a global company, you need to be willing to do it. There is really no hacks, right? I mean, there is no shortcuts that one can take. It's, you just need to hustle. You just need to hustle. There is no real other way. You just need to put your head down and go at it, and it's gonna take a long time. That's just the way it is.
Well, thank you very much, Luca, for this wonderful invitation. First of all, amazing place. We'll be throwing up some B-rolls of the place that you showed us, and I'm truly amazed. First of all, before starting, where are we? What's this?
Well, yeah, this is our Flex building in Madrid. We opened this building in November of 2024. So it's been about 9 months. And it's actually one of our newest concepts. So this flex living concept is 300 plus apartments, normally smaller or 1 or 2 bedroom apartments. And we're able to rent these apartments for long stays and short stays. The building is fully amenitized. We have a gym, I showed you, a sauna. We have a swimming pool in the rooftop. So you have all the services of a hotel, but you can actually live here also for longer stays if you want to.
It's literally a 5-star hotel. Like, it's amazing, truly amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. Our customers are really liking it. I mean, we had the plan to get to top occupancy in, I think, 6 or 9 months.
Whoa.
And it took us only 2 months to get to the full occupancy. So we're very happy, and the real estate partners are very happy about this property.
Almost no marketing needed. I think the space is quite
well, yeah, the space is very good, and the reality of the housing crisis that there is in Madrid, like in every other city, to have a space that you can access very easy. The price is actually quite good because it's a bit outside of the city, as you have seen. But we have everything inside this property, right? So the customer doesn't need to go to a gym, doesn't need to go. We have a co-working just here, right? So a lot of customers are working from here.
You don't need to leave the place.
No, you don't need to leave the place. That's that's the future.
Awesome. Before starting, there's something amazing about you. As you know, I interview global leaders from all types of world, but normally the global leaders that I interview, they talk in the past. What's wonderful about you is that you talk in the active. And I just want to know, before this, how old are you?
34.
34 years old. Wow. Can we throw some data? How many rooms do you have in Habyt? Cities, perhaps founding rounds, like some data?
I mean, it's we have at the moment about 15,000 units across Europe and Asia. The company I founded in 2017. So it's been almost 8 years now.
How old were you when you...
25. I was 25 when I started, yeah.
Okay.
So it is like, I speak about the present and the future, but there is already quite a bit of past, because it's been already 8 years on it. But yeah, I mean, we're all over Europe, continental Europe. We are also in Asia through partners in Singapore, Hong Kong, Tokyo, and Seoul. In Korea. So yeah, we're super happy of where we've gotten, but the future is in front of us. And as you said, it's more important than the past, at least for me.
100%.
For sure.
And great to have you here in Madrid also.
Of course.
Before everything, can we just define what's flexible living? What's the difference between flexible living and co-living? What's the different types of real estates in this type of...
But first of all, let me start with the idea that I actually started the Habyt to solve a problem, right? And the problem is that when I started the company in 2017, to find an apartment, it was absolutely crazy. If you would go to China, you'd have a local platform, Spain, local platform, and all of the technology and the business model there was is a simple classified. So putting together the owners and the tenant or the potential tenant, and there was no technology to help. It was very dodgy because the landlord can actually trick you into things, etc. And of course, that's once you go into the apartment, you never know, maybe you have to buy the sheets. I remember myself, I lived abroad all over Asia and then Europe, and every time I was going to IKEA buying the same three things, like, okay, this pillow, this bad things, etc. So the idea is, can we do something more in housing, right, than just the classified? So can we curate an experience where the customer not only has a place to stay, but it also has some level of community or other people that are staying there, as well as a very simple way to access the property without basically having to go through a local landlord, a lot of documentation, etc. And the first approach that we had was co-living, because of course I was 25 when I started the company. So I was very used at the time of living with other roommates, and this is like the first kind of approach that you have to housing is sharing the apartment with other people. And so co-living is exactly that, right? Is renting one room inside an apartment with multiple rooms and multiple people. Is just a traditional thing that everybody has done when they were studying or at the beginning of their career. Now, in the last couple of years, what we have, let's say, morphed into, we have changed a bit our model. We still operate some, let's say, legacy co-living buildings, but really what we do is flex living.
Okay.
Flex living is basically not rooms, but apartments. Just like here, there is 300 apartments. So it's not anymore just a room, but it's an apartment.
Full apartment with kitchen, bathroom, amenities.
And the full apartment is basically rentable for both long stays and for short stays. So if you're, for example, one of our customers may be coming from a co-living space before, and you want your own space, you can rent it for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, no problem. But at the same time, we dedicate a part of the space. For example, here we have a couple of floors, the first and the second, to also short stays. So just like a hotel. And why is this super beneficial? Because we can actually, with a higher turnover from the building, we can actually afford a lot more amenities. As you know, here there's gym, sauna, co-working, swimming pool, etc. But also higher level of service, because we have people in the buildings, staff 24/7. So if you need anything, you have a delivery, or something is not working in your apartment, you can just go down and ask, which is something that is absolutely crucial for the customer experience. And so that's a bit of the difference, right? Is I guess the length of stay and the style of the property. But let's say emotionally, for us, flex living is the co-living 2.0, right?
Oh, wow. Awesome. I'm laughing because, wow, your competitors are like residential hotels. It's everything more or less, right? What real quick, let's co-living 2.0. I like this, but this flexible living, is it more profitable, let's say, than other, for example, co-living business model?
Yeah, I think it's more profitable because you have the short stays as well, right? Because, in a normal traditional residential building with co-living, you only are allowed to long stays, and long stays usually are normally cheaper, right? And so therefore the profit that you can turn on the asset is usually lower, while the flex living is higher because you have more turnover, you have more activity that you have to do, and you can bring more value.
Awesome. Yeah, I do know that real estate people, they measure profitability in meters squared. That's right. So it's all about how is that measured for some entrepreneur or someone that doesn't understand? How do you measure profitability, and how do you see if this business model makes more sense than this, or this building makes more sense than another location?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that the real estate investors, they look at a figure that is called NOI, net operating income, which is like the EBITDA of the property, right, of the building. The EBITDA of the building, the NOI of a flex building, can be 2, maybe even 3 points higher, so 2 or 3% higher than a residential building.
Okay, so, right? Here, for example, in Madrid, it's 4% or 5% profitability standard. So exactly. It would be 3 or 4, depending on.
Correct. So if you build a property with the flex living concept, you can get up to maybe 7-8%. That's kind of the idea, right? Of course, to be fully transparent, it's also a more risky project, right? Because residential is very solid, it's very low turnover and lower margin. And when you go into the flex living, you're going more towards the hotel space, and obviously your turnover is higher, your operation costs are higher, etc. So it's a bit of a more risky approach, but we're finding really strong product market fit with the real estate developers, with the customers that really love this product. So we're very happy to be jumping into this new chapter.
And going back, how does a kid of 25-year-old say, hey, I'm going to launch this amazing global real estate company? What was also, I want to know, what kind of team do you need? What's your profile? You're more technical, more brand? Do you come from real estate? How was that?
So many questions.
Yeah, so many questions. Let's start with the first. You studied something related to real estate?
No, not really. I mean, I studied just business economics, finance. In Milan at Bocconi first, and then I actually did a year here in Madrid.
Yeah.
At the Instituto d'Impresa, so that was an amazing experience as well. And after that, actually, I got into technology. So I worked for Dropbox in Europe for some time on the sales side, so business development and sales, and that was a very formative experience. But completely unrelated with real estate and hospitality, but the pool that I had, in my family, historically, my grandpa had, restaurants and small hotels, like very low, let's say low scale and small ones. But I guess it kind of run in the family. I always had the passion for this part. And so I said at 25, okay, I just want to, do something that really passionates me, because I really loved working at Dropbox, but let's say selling, document sharing software was not really super passionate for me. So I decided to take the leap and to move into real estate and hospitality.
Awesome. And how was I want to know, like, from zero to your first location, how was the process? What kind of team do you need? What kind of talks do you need? How, for someone that perhaps is listening and doesn't understand?
Yeah, I think, the first steps were very small, right? So the first property that we got was just 7 rooms. So in Berlin, so it was very small, and we just did it among friends, right? So it was not really structured at all. But when you talk about the team, we'd like to think about the team as in like 2 parts. You have the local stuff. So the people that you see actually here, right? So these are amazing people, and they are people that have to be in contact with the customer every day, and these are mostly people from operations and hospitality. So it's very important to be like that. And then you have what we call the HQ people, the people that work for Habyt, the brand and the platform. And there is a bunch of people doing technology, so trying to optimize the way that customers book things, etc. And we have people in marketing. We have people in, you need to build a brand and you need to attract the customers. One of the most valuable things also for our real estate partners is exactly what I was saying before. The occupancy of the building is going up very fast, right? And so marketing is obviously very important.
Are you B2B2C? Do you have two different?
No, we just. It's basically. As any platform, right, we have 2 sides. One is that we have to, let's say, acquire the buildings, right? And acquiring the buildings means, our real estate team going to the largest developer and real estate owners in the world and say, hey, do you want to do this flex project with us? And then we need to also acquire the customers, right? So we need to make sure that people know about this building, for example, right? And so the marketing that I speak about is mostly the marketing towards the customer, because the marketing towards the B2B, so the property owners, is much more, let's say, soft touch, right? So you need to go to events, etc. It's not really,
How do you acquire a building? What's the process? Do you own buildings? How is the general ABC for that?
No, for now we don't own any buildings. We're only operators. So we operate for third parties. And the reality is that with the 8 years almost in the business of co-living first and then now flex, we've built a very strong network of real estate partners. So sometimes they call us, sometimes we call them, and sometimes they pitch us, or sometimes we pitch them on doing flex buildings, hospitality buildings. We actually have a lifestyle hotel that we're opening as well in Madrid in September.
Oh,
so
yeah?
we're changing a few things and investing also in new verticals.
Oh.
And this is super interesting, and therefore we speak with our real estate partners, and we try to look for buildings that we think we can bring value to, and then we pitch it to them. And that's really the only way that you can build this business. But of course, having the 8 years of background from the running the co-living business really helped us to bring us to this place where we can do 400, 300 apartment buildings, all over Europe. Yeah.
And how does I don't know, you started 25, how does a 27, 28-year-old pitch in front of like the real estate? We have a phrase here in Spain, which is casposo. We say that when something is very old school and very dinosaur-like.
Yeah.
How did you penetrate that market? Have you any interesting stories regarding that?
Well, I mean, you can definitely go and pitch, and you definitely need a lot of confidence to go and try. Especially here, I mean, I speak some Spanish, but not super well. And you can try. I mean, a lot of people will laugh at you, and a lot of people will not believe in you. But you just need to persevere. That's just the way it works. And obviously, if you're in an industry that is a bit more young and a bit more maybe sports or something like that, then it might be a bit faster to grow into the industry. But at this now with the 8 years behind us, definitely people take us more seriously, and 100%. Also we're starting to get 1 or 2 white hair, which helps. And that's but you just have to go and get laughed at. That's just the way it is, right?
Awesome advice. You said that you're opening a lifestyle location here in Madrid. What's your opinion on specialized spaces? For example, where we are here, I see perhaps it's more generalized. You can have, I don't know, students, entrepreneurs, digital nomads. What do you think about specialized verticals, like you said? Do you think...
I mean, we are... Yeah, I see what you're saying. We, as Habyt, we have a mission that implies that we want to go as wide as possible, right? So we want to create programs. Maybe it's our co-living program, it's our flex program, or now this lifestyle hotel program that have a very wide sort of catch. We want it to be quite generalist. We want to have as many and enable as many people access to our properties as possible. But of course, there's always somebody that is doing something very specific for tech or for creators. I think, as and these are totally things that make sense and work. But it's not really our angle. Our angle is to go wide, is to target very big problems and try to solve them.
100%. I want to also ask you the importance on what's the importance on the maintenance, decoration, like the let's say the packaging versus the investment that's made? I don't know how you balance. Is it worth investing more capex is called in the industry, or like in decoration, but losing a little money? Or how do you envision investment wise? What's more logical in this industry?
I think, as you said before, the really the rule of the game is your return per space, per square meter, or however you want to say it, right? Which is translated in the NOI, the net operating income of the property. So every single investment needs to be made with the idea of having a return. If it doesn't have a return, it doesn't really make sense, right? I mean, unfortunately, it would be easier to work if our real estate partners and developers were non-profits, but they are unfortunately not. They are quite the opposite. And so you need to provide them with exactly what kind of return does this specific amenity space or whatever, generate. And as you can see here, the space and the investment is huge. But the property and the quality of the asset and the return that the property is making is more than satisfactory for them. So everything, I mean, we believe very much in the big investment in each of the properties, but it all comes with a very strong data on the returns that this asset can generate.
Yeah. A little technical question. I'm in the startup industry and have been in the financing rounds. I know VCs have a cycle of 5 years till they want, depending on which year they invest. But real estate, does it have also a cycle? How do you handle? You mentioned the investors, the profitability. How are the stakeholders?
Yeah. Well, it's quite similar because in most real estate developers or funds, they're also close funds with like the venture capital funds. So they usually have 5, 7, max 10 years of lifetime of the fund. So at some point, the asset that you are managing will be sold. And you need to actually, it's part of our job, as an operator, as a manager of hotels and buildings, to basically support the sale of that project. So, for example, we now have the first building of Flex in Germany, in Europe. It was built in 2023, and it was sold actually right at the beginning of us operating it to a very, very large institutional fund. This asset already, it was sold by the developer 1 or 2 months or 3 months after the opening. So, and actually it's a badge of honor for the operator to take a building, allow the developer or the first fund to make a very strong return. It makes us as a company more valuable, right? Because then another developer also wants to make money on the building. So they choose us because they say, hey, these guys have been making money for their developers multiple times already. So it's kind of like, we are a vehicle that allows the, investors to basically sell their buildings for higher and therefore to make money. Yeah.
That's awesome. And you still have what I've read and seen this. So basically in the startup world, we saw 2018, 2019, where lots of funds were pouring in and it was all about unicorn startups. And now 2021, after, we're talking about camel startups, which is be profitable, small teams. How do you see that? Because you're still aggressively scaling, right? And what's your opinion on that?
I mean, yes, we are still scaling, but since maybe we realized a bit later than 2021 that this that the trend is at the change. And I mean, we did raise almost 100 million euros in funding. So it's a lot, and it's a lot of responsibility and pressure. But I do think that, I think that the times have changed, and now it's all about profitability. It's all about, being, more lean, more operationally excellent. And so that's exactly where we're going. So, it looks from the outside, all very rosy, but, we had to go through some, layoffs. We had to go through some reduction of the footprint, etc. And this is just things that you have to do in order to adapt to the times, because when you, the alternative is you go out to the market and you're not able to raise money, and then there is a massive issue, right? And you risk to kind of go against the wall.
What was your first funding round, and what was your last?
I mean, we did the first in maybe 2017 when we started, and the last one we just closed a small internal round a couple of months ago.
Do you think it's does it change when it's a Series B or Series A upward than a seed, for example? Is it more difficult? And what advice would you give like young entrepreneurs who are trying to do?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a very good question. I wish that I had a bit more advice myself. I would say 2 things, right? Actually, one thing, which is the number 1 rule, is you need to raise capital when you don't need the money. That's the rule. If you don't need to raise the capital, you can raise capital very well. And how do you not need to raise capital? It's one of 2 things. Either you have the queue outside because you're doing something absolutely special. Imagine AI startups at the moment, etc. And then, of course, you have many, many choices. So you don't need to pick one investor. You can just, pick among them, and, you have all the time in the world because you're very in high demand. Or the alternative is, if you're not one of those super hyped sectors like AI, is you need to be profitable. You need to be profitable, and you don't need to raise capital. If you don't need to raise capital, then you can go out and speak with people, take your time, etc. But this is something that, for example, I didn't learn. I was not aware, as kind of a young entrepreneur does, and we went in very risky situations multiple times because of this reason. Yeah.
For example, I don't know if you know, I wrote on the email, I have a small co-living space. That's why you're a huge inspiration for all of us that are coming back. We did specialize it on entrepreneurs. Basically, it's a mansion here in Madrid, Majadahonda. And we're in that debate whether we should be profitable and lean since the first moment, or we should invest a little and get the ball rolling. How do you see that?
I think the profitability is absolutely needed. Yeah. So if you're not able, and this is also something that we have learned, and we've done buildings the same size. How many units was
16,
this one?
16.
16. So we've done that for a long time. And if you are asking yourself, do I need, like, there is a trade-off basically, right? Between kind of making money and making the experience better.
Yeah.
If that is a trade-off, that you need to ask yourself another question, which is, okay, maybe the size of the site is too small, right? And that's why, for example, it might be better to maybe wait and do a bigger project later where you can have both, just like here, right? Very good quality asset and a very good experience and very good financials, rather than having to choose and having to compromise between the two.
Awesome advice. Thank you very much. I wanted to have now a small block of mindset, more general questions. So any hacks for getting your first 1,000 clients, customers, someone that's starting?
I'm going to be boring here, but there is really no hacks, right? I mean, there is no shortcuts that one can take. It's, you just need to hustle. You just need to hustle. There is no real other way. You just need to put your head down and go at it, and it's gonna take a long time. That's just the way it is. So I wish there was any shortcuts. And maybe like 10 years ago I would have told you, oh yeah, you can do this and that. But the reality is that there's just no shortcut. You just need to go for it and take it slowly, and whatever time it takes, it will take.
And on the other side, for example, when you're a huge scale up like yourself, do you think you're still, we say in Spain, on the trenches, like working? I saw you before that podcast, you were like going for like doing things that perhaps, I don't know, you could delegate, let's say it in that way. Do you still feel that you're in the trenches, or does that end, or?
That never ends. It never ends. It never ends. Because in fact, if it does end, that's a huge problem, right? I mean, then you should probably not do whatever you're doing, And to all the people that say, you should do a bit more kind of, presidential work and not get into the trenches. Can I swear?
Yeah, no
fuck
problem.
off, yeah. I don't like that at all. I think, this is, the founder of Airbnb, he has amazing stories of how after the IPO, he was basically like, completely stuck into these, board meetings and admin stuff. And like, he was basically completely removed from the product, and it took him, like, he had to literally take a step back and say, okay, now we're done with this, we refocus the company, we make it much smaller, and I get back into doing, hands-on things.
Yeah.
Now Airbnb.
Founder mode,
exactly, yeah. And now Airbnb is one of the most profitable companies, in terms of cash return on revenue, probably on this piece. So it's really, really, to me, it's very important to be on the ground. And actually, I have gone through something. I mean, I wish to the size of Airbnb, but in my small bubble, to something similar to that. And now my goal is actually to go back into, yesterday we went to this. I told you this lifestyle hotel we're opening in the center of Madrid, and I realized that I really don't like the machine that was ordered for the gym, and I was like. Of course, I just didn't have the time, and I didn't have the mindset to check it out, but I should have. And I mean, it's just the way it is, right? We should be like that. This is our job. So I truly believe in that.
Yeah, perhaps because there's now everyone is saying automate, delegate, like be the most self-productive. So I really appreciate you on that. And what are the key ingredients on the flip side of the prior question of the 1,000 customers? What's the key ingredients to building a global company?
No, I mean, for the global company, it's you need to. It's again a bit going back to the founder mode topic. The reality is that if you want to have a global company, which means 2+ or maybe 3 even continents, right?
Crazy.
You need to be willing to spend a lot of time there. I mean, that's just the way it is, right? I mean, for example, if you think of, let's say, Apple, Apple is not, it's not really a global company, meaning, it has some global operations, etc., right? But the company is very much focused in Cupertino.
Yeah.
So everything happens there. So is it? I mean, it's a global company, but it doesn't really have massive operations. Of course, it has some retail, it has production in China and other places, etc. That's fine. But when I mean global company, I mean with local operations. For example, for us, like buildings running, etc. You need to be willing, to really spend a ton of time. I mean, I spent a lot of time in other continents in the last couple of years, and it's kind of the price you have to pay. It's also super exciting, but you need to be willing to do that. That's, I think, a massive component. And you have.
What would you say you have lost? What's the price?
I mean, the price is just your time, right? Spending time with your loved ones, your body, and the fact that you're traveling from one place to another. And I mean, the effect on your body is quite strong. So it is a kind of a quite competitive and intense lifestyle. And if you want to have a global company, you need to be willing to do it. And sometimes I look back and I even say, okay, I travel already like about 200 days a year, and already I feel like I could have done more. Right. So imagine if you go more than 200, where you're getting to maybe like 250 or 300 days a year, it's super intense.
Whoa.
So, it's to be done with a lot of caution.
That's an artist life, eh? What would you say is the single most important thing every successful business must have?
For me, and it goes back to the point of, when I left Dropbox to join or to start Habyt. To me, the biggest, most important thing is to have a very big mission, and that's why I was saying, yes, of course, Dropbox was amazing, and the product is amazing, and the people were amazing, but the mission of what we were doing, and the sense of let's say fulfillment that, let's say, a software to share and store documents in your computer, it doesn't give you that sense of fulfillment, right? While here, we are talking about the largest asset class in the world, which is residential real estate. We're talking about usually 1/3 of the spend of people's, salaries in disposable income.
Great.
And if you think about it in terms of market share of the hours during the day, you're spending at least, 8 to 16, and now with remote, even 24 hours.
Here more, no? You have gym, saunas in it.
Exactly. People here, sometimes they spend 24 hours in with your product. So what bigger kind of mission?
Easy.
What bigger mission can you have than something that is the largest asset class in the world, that is 1/3 of the disposable income or even more, and where people spend 1/3 or up to the full day within the product, right? And for me, this is it. So if there is anything that you want to start, I would only recommend start it with as big of a mission and as big of an impact as possible, because this is also what retains the people, right? I mean, my management team, we've been together for 6-7 years and counting. For a relatively young company, we have very little turnover. Why? Because people are motivated by what we do. You go around Europe, around Asia, you see all these big buildings being built, customers coming in. I mean, this is massive. At least, maybe it's my point of view, but this is the way we think. Yeah.
Awesome pitch. Goosebumps. Like I can see, because every huge company, everything they do is that retention on your time. What's your end goal, mission? Some startups, they start wanting the exit, the IPO. What's the mission for yourself and for Habyt?
Well, I think in general, the mission of life is to do fun things, to do the things that you love with the people that you love, right? So, it's sorry to get a bit philosophical, but I love to do this hospitality business, to build spaces that people can enjoy, etc. So my goal is to continue to do this, and it is to continue to do this with the team and the people that I really like. So what does that mean? Okay, I don't care. We go to the US, we go to the moon or to Mars. I really don't care. As long as we continue to do what we're doing and we continue to achieve our mission and to build on top of what we've built, I will be a very happy man. So IPO, exit, I think this is just a consequence of building a very good company and with very strong values and very good product. Once you have achieved that, then the offers of like, oh, you want to IPO, you want to exit, they will just come, right? It's just that's not the end goal, right? That's just an outcome, one of the outcomes that will happen as a consequence of you doing very good work.
Oh, awesome. What do you personally do different than 99% of the people? Secret sauce.
I mean, you mean in the industry or in just in
You
general?
now it's Luca as a person.
I mean, I think there's a, let's say, a misconception that the CEO is, or your founders, etc., are working harder or longer hours than anybody else, right? I think at least that this is my point of view. So I mean, of course, maybe for some people, it is still quite long hours, because obviously you have most of the days that will be from maybe 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., which probably it is quite a lot of time. But I also spend a lot of time with family, friends, and try to stay as flexible as possible with my schedule, in order to basically enjoy life as much as possible. I think it's a huge component. And I'm not this kind of guy that gets depressed because of all the work that needs to be done, and that doesn't see friends, doesn't see family, that doesn't go out to enjoy themselves with friends, etc. Right? I mean, I think this is a huge component. And as I said before, in the end, life, the really only goal in life is to have fun and to be with the people you love, doing the things that you love. So there's really no point, in my view, at least, to struggle that much if you cannot enjoy it as well.
What would be I see you a great negotiator. I imagine closing deals. What would be a negotiation advice you would give a young founder?
Again, we go back to the advice on raising capital, and I think in every single negotiations that you are, the only way to achieve what you want to achieve is to not need the outcome. If you need the capital because you're not there because you want to, you're there because you need to, you're gonna get screwed. And it's just the way it is. If going to one partner and have a discussion on one building is your only way to get a specific building in Madrid or in Lisbon or in Milan, you're most likely going to get screwed. So optionality is really the only thing. I mean, trust me, I've had multiple times when I had no other option and I had to still do it, right? So, but if you ask me what is the best way to negotiate, the best way to negotiate is to have multiple options. That's just the way it is. I'm very banal and not very.
That it makes total sense.
Yeah.
It makes total sense. What would be your advice and your take on focusing? So several locations, several cities, several buildings. You said you even get to that micro focus of a machine in a specific location. How do you focus? What's any productivity tip?
I think the topic of focus is very similar to other, let's say, company things like vertical, horizontal organizations. These are things that kind of snap back. Right. So you have some time when you go horizontal, then you go vertical. In the same way, like geographic focus, product focus is like you first go very focused, then you start expanding a bit, right? And then you refocus. Think of Apple, they started with a computer, then they went like 20 different products, then Steve Jobs came back, streamlined back to 3, 4, and now they're slowly, increasing again. So it is a bit like that. So I don't think that there is a very specific, let's say, angle of like, oh, I need to focus on this or focus on that. I think that you need to run it, in the most profitable, efficient way that, makes the customer the happiest. But let's say the setup with a very focused tight geographical or not, I think it's an ever-changing setup that you need to sort of, that comes and goes, basically.
And is that linear in a year? Like, for example, first quarter, we focus on creating and brainstorming, and then next quarter on building.
No, I think this is more like a multi-year cycle, right? It's a multi-year cycle. So, we have, for example, done a lot of expansion geographical. Now we are consolidating, reducing a bit the footprint. Then maybe in 2-3 years, you will see us again going, very far away, etc., to expand again. I think it's kind of this push and pull that happens. Yeah.
Very far away. You mentioned the moon before.
You never know.
Who knows? I have it in the ISS.
We need Elon to deliver on the first.
We're going to rapid fire questions. It's rapid, but you can expand however you want. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Well, the best advice for sure is to never listen to advice. Never listen to advice. I mean, you want to listen to people. You want to hear them out. You want to hear people's stories. You want to go to kind of mentors and like, entrepreneurs that have done it before, and they will never, realistically, they will never give you an advice. They will just tell you their story, and then you decide what to do. But they will never tell you, Luca, you should do this. Jorge, you should do this. They will just tell you, this is what, when it happened to me, this is what I did. But each situation is different. So you're never going to be able to, it's very difficult that you find somebody that has done exactly that thing with exactly the same circumstances, etc. So don't be fooled. You just need to trust yourself, your intuition, and just listen to as many people as possible. But the best advice is definitely to follow none advice.
Whoa. So listen to lots of people, but then don't listen to them at the same time and filter your own.
Yes, absolutely.
That's awesome. And what's the worst advice you've ever received?
No, I mean, the worst advice is always, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. When I was starting with Habyt, I was going to some, friends and family friends, etc., asking, so what about this business model? What do you think? What are the regulations, etc.? It's like, I know this will never work because we have this rule and this other rule and the tax and this, like the naysayers are always there. If you were to listen to the advice or to such bad advice, you will never do things, which kind of brings me back to the first point, just to not listen to it and, follow your intuition.
What's the thing that you most dislike in general or in the business world?
Probably bad food. Don't bring me to bad food that I cannot handle.
Madrid is good then? Spain
Madrid
in general?
is perfect. Yeah, Madrid is very good. Yeah, for sure.
What's your so this doesn't have to be economic investment, but what's the best investment you've ever done?
I think the best investment is, in my view, like, of course, you have, you could say the best investment that I've done is starting this company, financially, in terms of life experience, etc. There's no doubt about that. But I think what is really fun is, you're going to make, if you invest and say, okay, you have a 10%, 15%, 7% yield. In the end, I think the best investment you can make is definitely one that makes you spend time on problems and products that you really like and enjoy, versus just a financial investment or something like that, right? Because when you invest in some, for example, for me, it's like F&B, which is very complementary as well with our core business. And, if I made a couple of investments in this sector, and, it's been super fun to just, follow along, to learn, to meet the people, etc. So that's for me, like an
active investment, not a passive that you just throw in.
Exactly. You're active, but, you also learn, about something that you want to learn. I think this is the best way to spend your time, right? Because going back to the point is, like, yes, ideally you spend all your time working and none of your time working at the same time, right? Because you're enjoying what you do. And this is, one of the things, like, okay, just invest your capital and your time into things that you really like. And then, it will feel like not working at all.
Yeah, 100%. Awesome advice, actually, because you never lose. If you lose money, you gain experience. Exactly. 100%.
Absolutely.
What's your best investment you've made recently for under 50 euros?
50 euros. Yeah, it's good. No, I mean, some small things, like, some small tech gadgets. They're like,
yeah, you like?
I mean, it's like some things, like they just increase your life, dramatically with like very small things. Like, for example, I as I told you, like, I travel 200 days a year. And for like so many years, I was like unplugging all my gear, cables, etc., right, from like my house or my office, and then put it in the backpack. And then after like a couple of years ago, I just bought like 2 or 3 of everything, and now I have one in my backpack, one in my house, and it's so nice every time to just leave the house, not having to remember that, I need to, these small things are like, they're fun, so. Sure.
If you could have a dinner with anyone in the world, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
I mean, it's very, you could spend so much time answering to this question. But for me, one person that comes to mind that is also probably new to your listeners is a gentleman called Adrian Zeka. And Adrian is the founder of a company called Aman Hotels.
Okay.
It is, at least for me, and also from an industry perspective, the best hotel chain in the world. He sold it eventually, so he's not leading it anymore. But the way that he had for his career to build these magical spaces, physical spaces, and also really the magic and sort of the softness of the experience is, really very, very difficult to imagine how to do it. It's something that we try to do every day, but obviously we are very, very far from the way he hasn't been able to. So I would love to meet with him. He's based in Singapore, so if anybody knows him and wants to show me an intro, I will happily take the flight and go meet him.
That's awesome. In one sentence, what's your purpose in life or life goal mission?
It's something we have already said before, right? Which is at the end of the day, the only thing that makes sense is to do the things that you like and spend as much time with the people that you enjoy with, right? And so for me, I really like this world of hospitality, of like physical spaces and, real estate, hospitality, food and beverage, etc. So my goal is simple, just to continue to do that as long as I can, and to do that with my friends, which are also in the business, awesome. And to just spend as much time with my loved ones as possible. So that's sorry awesome. For the boring.
No, not boring at all. So I know or assume that your favorite place on earth is Madrid. So I'm going to ask you, what's the best place to be an entrepreneur currently? To make money, perhaps, or if it's different. You mentioned Singapore, of course, it's top. Some say Silicon Valley, Dubai, maybe Madrid. I think not Madrid because fiscally and all, but what would be the best place, you that have operations all over the globe?
The reality is that everybody, like you say Madrid is not good, and I say Milan is not good because I'm Italian, and some other person is always. So there is always somebody that knows it ins and outs and get tired of it, and you always kind of tend to complain. But I think one of the very interesting things about COVID, what happened after and so on, is really the decentralization of entrepreneurship, etc. And so I don't think that as much as when I started 10 to 15 years ago, it was very important to be in a very strong hotspot. Now is not as important because a lot of companies are remote, a lot of services can be delivered remotely, and so it's not as important. So I do think that being in a specific place is not as important as before. However, since you asked the questions, I will also give you a very specific answer. What I'm seeing in real estate hospitality is a complete reversal of the spaces, the cities and the regions that have been important for the last 15 years, and the ones that were completely underlooked is completely flipped. So from, let's say, 2010 until 2022, 25, so let's call it 12, 15 years, the hotspots for real estate hospitality, and I think it kind of trends with where it makes sense to make money and to start companies, where London, Paris, Berlin, no doubt. Now, where everybody's investing is Lisbon, Madrid, Milan, and even Athens, even Greece.
Whoa.
Yeah, so a lot of investment going there. Yeah. So that's something that's very interesting. So if I was, when I started, I went to work in Ireland and then in Germany, etc. If I were to start now, I would go to Southern Europe. That's for sure.
Thanks for that specifics. What advice would you give a 5-year-old?
Well, the advice for a 5-year-old is to fall in love very deeply, not only with people, which I wish to everybody, but also with things, with topics, to get very, very deep into specific something. For us, it's what we've spoken about is like real estate, hospitality, hotels, these things. But for someone else, might be technology, might be hardware, might be space, any topic, to just go as deep as possible to develop that love, and to not be scared, to not be afraid of loving deeply something, because that's exactly the way that you can live a wonderful life, I think.
That's awesome. And this is the final one, a quote and advice. If all 8 billion people on Earth would be listening to you, what's your mantra? What's your...
one thing that I definitely didn't do, which I would say that, we said don't follow advice, right? So it's kind of difficult now. But what I would say is a good mantra to have is slow is fast, fast is slow. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I get it. Give more space to. Thank you very much, Luca. Amazing talk.
Thank you so much.
Inspired us,
of course.
and great place and location.
I'll take you around. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Perfect. All right.
See you soon.
Thank you.